Say good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of
Good morning.
the Sunday Morning Show that you might see any time of the day. How about that? So
Sounds
we so for those of you that haven't been watching, we have been intentional about going live on everything artificial intelligence, not just because we use it consistently every day, but because we want to kind of play with it and find out what we don't know, in addition to testing it out. So even today, we were like, what is it you're struggling with? And you, for those of you that are watching this live, you caught it live, or even if you're watching the replay, type in the feed, like what is that one, two, or three things that if ChatGPT or AI could fix it, what would it be? Right, Mina? Like there's
right.
like
Hmm.
we could there's so many things it could be. It could be that you just need someone to talk to to plan things out. And here's what's interesting is Mark and I were having a conversation today on the way home about changing the structure of the company. And I was like, we should talk about it later. And then I got frustrated because it's not something I want to do. And I'm like, you write it out. But now I'm thinking I could actually use ChatGPT to prove
Yeah.
what I think. So, like, what is it you're struggling with? What is something you want to know? Could it be with it? It could be social media marketing. It could be that you need a new logo. It could be the concept of a logo. It could be maybe you're thinking about changing brokerages in the real estate space. What about you, Mina?
It could be a teacher wanting to be more efficient, come up with some ideas where it's real world for students. M- I'm thinking about if they had their own, sometimes teachers create these um, markets where kids make things and they sell them and they got to give receipts, or maybe they want to create their own stock market and they need to understand it, and maybe they need to create their own like NASDAQ graph and they have to interpret it. Like you could get really creative because it's quick. Like you don't have to go and figure out how to create the graph on your own, throw it in like Google Sheets or Excel and create either fake data or even go get the real data, which I do agree with, but maybe they want to understand it from the back end. Like you get the front end, you know this is what it is by the end of the day when the stock market closes or opens or whatever. But maybe you're like, maybe we can create our own stock market so kids could learn about the stock market. And they can do that as young as, probably kindergarten if it's money, or even middle or high school. So, I mean, I got so many ideas and it can make it really efficient for us, like, and kind of fun too.
So and so my concept is because we both came up with like the one thing, and that was Mina's. Today I had the privilege, or maybe I should say recently, I had the privilege of talking to somewhere between 50 and 75 attorneys. Yeah. And I was real cautious about what wanted to say. I got some chuckles out of them. And one of the comments was because in the real estate space, if you are a buyer's agent, when you have a fully executed contract, you write an offer, you get a fully executed contract, and now because of the NAR settlement, we are asking the seller to pay compensation because compensation got taken out of the MLS. And attorneys, loan officers, and title companies want I'm going to call it a commission statement, but I think it should be an invoice. They need that commission statement invoice once you go under contract. So it is customary that when we would list property, the listing broker would have a commission statement, and it would show what the seller's brokerage got paid and what the buyer's broker got paid. And it came out of the proceeds because the seller paid it. Now, with the NAR settlement, there are some agents that have never, ever done a compensation agreement on the buy side. I am shocked because I hear the stories because y'all call me and or agents are like, Carrie, got another agent. They didn't check their money as the buyer's agent, and then they get the check because they got there late and it's not right. So really what it should do for agents is when you send your invoice, it'll help you verify your compensation faster. And then number two, it shows how you get paid because you send the contract with all of your disclosures and now the seller addendum agreement to pay and your invoice. So You go first, Mina, and then I'm going to tell everybody I created prompts for all of you tonight, today, this morning that I'll share with you. And I'm going to tell you what I did, but I'm not going to show it for antitrust reasons. But I am going to show you, I'll make it work with zero numbers. I'll make it work so they can see me do it. So you go first. You go
Okay,
share.
so
Can you wait? Let me make sure you can share your screen.
and I think I can, but I before I even do that, and I had the privilege of speaking to over 100 educators yesterday, and I was able to create these graphs similar to what we were doing the couple of Sundays ago, and I use public data. Now, I actually gave them a spreadsheet so they could use the spreadsheet to create their graphs because I didn't want to have to confuse them on how I used AI to create these graphs because it was beautiful. But one of the things that we can do with artificial intelligence is to grab public information and throw it into ChatGPT. And that's why I mentioned the stock market. That's why I mentioned how teachers could use it and educators, because our goal is to educate children so that if they want to go into the business world, become an entrepreneur, become an agent, that they already know how to have the skills that you need them to have so that you don't have to go out of your way to teach them these skills. So getting them in front of artificial intelligence, helping them practice with it as young as they can to use it and type, or like what they're doing in Singapore, where kids actually have access to ChatGPT and they're using the voice. So the idea
Ooh,
is, right? So the idea is to give it to the child and the student and the teacher so that they're learning with it and they're not using it as the end result. Like I can have ChatGPT do all of my calculations and not even know how to do math. But the idea is that if we teach them the direct mathematics and then teach them how quickly they can do it and then go verify it, you're using it as a tool to problem solve. So that's what I wanted to share that first. But yes, so I'm going to tell you that what I did. So I had this teacher, and for privacy, I won't even give you the grade, but every year she created a market. And what she did is she had all the students over time make, like, they did crafts or whatever it was, and then they had this market where students in the school could buy what they made, but it was all handcrafted items, and they were really creative. But if I think back on it, I don't remember receipts. I don't remember them giving, like, you paid this much, this is how much it costs with tax. So here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show you if I was this teacher or if I had AI as a teacher today, this is what I would do. So I'm going to show you the prompt first, and let me go and find my prompt because I'm all in, like, where is everything land, um, which can drive me crazy, but we're going to find it. Uh, Here we go. So I don't have to look too hard. So forgive me. So what I'm doing is I'm grabbing my prompt because I know I just had it. Here we go. And so let me show you what the prompt actually looks like without anything in it. So the prompt basically is like, I need to create a receipt. I'm looking at it. Need to create this receipt for my booth. The name of my booth, like you insert the booth name, what my booth number is, the customer bought the following items, and then it tells you to calculate it and put the tax rate. So this is what the prompt looks like. I'm going to delete this prompt and I'm going to give you the actual prompt. Like, and this is I did this, oh my gosh, I did this a few times. Here is the prompt.
okay.
And I even said, after creating it, please download the receipt as a Word document. So it's creating this. It's taking some time. You can see now that it tells you it's analyzing it. It's thinking, it's processing just like you would if you were doing this on your own. You think about things, you process it. ChatGPT is trying to grab all the knowledge that it can somewhere in server land, website land, or whatever. Now, it gives me the download. I'm going to say I would like to see the receipt. I want to see it. So it's showing me what it looks like right here. So and I could have copy, cut, and paste this thing, but let's go see. Let's download it. Let's open it. And of course, it threw it on my other screen. So let's bring it over so you can see the prompt and the Word doc at the same time. So here it is. So here was the prompt. We asked it to do this, and it created this. It said that the unit price was this. They bought one. Oh, they bought 2 handmade necklaces, $30. It added the receipt. This is how much the person paid. I mean, and then
this took out me having to deal with a calculator, a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. I could literally sit at I could be at a business, I could be at an event, have a trade show, and I could literally just create my invoice right there with ChatGPT, open up in Word and print. Or I could literally just be somewhere and then flip a laptop around and then they could take a picture of it and have their invoice.
And if you're selling your agent journey, notebook, you could do it that way if you really wanted a receipt. The other thing is that, so if you're thinking, well, why would I want students to do that? They're not doing the math. It's just doing it for them. I'm going to front load you and say that you can presume that what the teacher did was they already did this. They already talked about how to do the math. They already talked about the product. They're practicing with AI. They did the math first before they even went to this market. And now what they now have is they will have, and I'm going to share my screen again, because what now in the same chat, because here is the chat. Let's say they did this person did a bunch of these sales in the same chat. At the very end, I can say, do this prompt again and say 5 painted canvases and 6 necklaces. Maybe this is all they sell. So it's going to do this prompt again, and it's going to have all the information in this chat. Now, and I'm going to say, I want to see it too, just in case it doesn't do it. Because what will start to happen, and I clearly spelled prompt wrong, but I could edit this, by the way. That's a new thing.
But I think ChatGPT reads typo.
It reads typo very well. Okay, I want to see it too, always. Just now I'm letting it know. Every time it does it, I want to see it. Now what I'm going to say is take all of the receipts, add them together in a Google, let's say CSV file, visual, and download. Because now it's in the same one. So let's say this was a market that was real. You sell, your Christmas market, you're selling books, and you open up the same chat every time. Every time it's going to be right in here. And you, at the end of the month, decide, okay, look, there it is. I can see it. I can download it. I can, let's just say, you know what? I really like using Google Sheets. So now I go into Google Sheets, and you can always back this up if you feel like I'm going too fast. I can go to import. I can go to upload, find that last one that I just did, which I don't see it.
Isn't that it right? Oh, no. Well,
wait, let me
you can
cancel
search for it. How'd you save it? There it is.
There it is. Okay. So it was still thinking. So I needed to slow down just slightly. So I'm going to cancel this. I'm going to hit browse again and click on it.
I think
I'm
it was there
importing
already.
it. It could have been because, it could have been, it was there, but I don't think it was grayed out where I could click on it. Now I have my receipts for the
She can
whole
show you.
month or whatever. Like, look at it. Like I have this is what I sold. Now it tells me I have so many things as a teacher that I could talk about. Like, what do I need to make more of? I sold all of these. And I could have even said, who did I sell it to? Like you could have put that person's name in there because maybe you got their contact information, things like that. Look, how much, what was the total? You could sum it up here. Like there's so many things that I could do as an educator to teach it, because our goal as educators is to get them ready for either to go to college or be ready for the career. And in the state of California, you can become an agent at 18 years old. This thing.
So here we go. My turn. So what I'm going to do is first things first is I need to go find where I wrote this. There it is. So for those of you, whether you're watching live or you're watching the replay, the goal of this talk is to talk about what is that one thing you're doing that you feel like it could save you, where ChatGPT could save you time. So my example is creating a commission statement. Again, I like to call it an invoice for as a buyer's agent that I can send over in Illinois to the attorney, the lender, and the title company. In Florida, it would be in escrow and the loan officer, so they can make sure that the buyer has the funds to close. Now, of course, before I even go show property, my buyer's fully underwritten, and I already told the loan officer um, what my compensation is, so they can talk to the buyer about what happens if they have to negotiate and the seller is going to pay the buyer's brokerage a certain amount, and the buyer has to come to closing with the rest. So I created 3 prompts. Now you could adjust these. And so I'm going to share them with you. And then when I share them, I'll talk about the rationale.
So, so while you're sharing it, the thing, what's nice about this is that as this could actually be used in an economics class, what you're doing, it could be in a law class in high school, a history class in high school, so that they can be up on the latest, information in real estate. It impacts the local area. So real world conversations, like what you're doing, becomes a real world conversation in a classroom, especially in high school, because many students aren't going to college now. So that is, even just talking about this from this perspective and giving this access, giving this information to high school teachers, they're always looking for what's the real world implication. Like, how could I have this conversation? And the just because what is it? The Realtors Association, the national, the NA, is it NAR?
Well, don't use them as the example. Say what you're going to say, and then I'll tell you what say. What are you thinking?
Put it in realtors. What I'm saying is that because all the news was talking about the impact of what you're doing and how this, impacts how people or real estate agents sell, this could be a conversation in a classroom, is my point. It's a real world phenomenon. It's a real world application. That's my point.
Okay. So in this case, in all 50 states, agents are, our compensation has been removed from the multiple listing service. And there was an agreement to cooperate with the buyer's agent. Now a buyer's agent has to have an agreement to show property, and compensation has to be a part of the conversation, and it's in the agreement. But it doesn't mean we don't still go to the seller and ask the seller to pay compensation. So this is what I did based on the conversation of what I just heard from attorneys today, that real estate agents are not turning in their commission statement when they go under contract to the attorney, the lender, the title company, depending on which state you're in, at the time of the contract. Don't wait till 3 days before closing, because agents are sad because they didn't say. And so now you might not get paid because you didn't do this. Now, again, if you do have a seller agreement to pay and you waited to the last minute, you probably still get paid. It's just some agents are not even asking for the agreement to pay. So
you might not get paid. Yeah, you might want to listen.
So here's my first example. Seller and buyer pays compensation. So when I put my company name here because I built it for me, but what you would do is, so what ChatGPT is going to do is create an invoice that is invoiced to a home seller to pay my company based on this price. With the compensation, that's the price. And then, so this one is, and the seller agreed to pay whatever the percent is from the total amount, and the buyer is paying this amount. of the total sale price of the home. Write two line items showing the seller payment and the buyer payment. Include the property address on the invoice and the company address at the top of the invoice. Then I put in that I want the invoice to have the property address. So it could, I could clean this up a little bit, maybe to make it look better. And I'm going to share this template with everyone. I'll put it in the feed. Even on the replay, I'll put it out there. And so then I want the property address on the invoice, company address on the invoice. I want the seller's name and the buyer's name. And I'm saying create this invoice in Microsoft Word and use the company logo. So I could upload my logo to ChatGPT, and then I can ask ChatGPT to build this in Microsoft Word. Then I created two more examples. Now, again, your situation, your state, or your brokerage could be different. Hopefully your brokerage already has an invoice. I have an Excel spreadsheet, but I thought I could do this in a pinch. So this is when the seller pays all of the compensation. Again, what was agreed on your buyer agency agreement. You can't go up, but what they agreed to. You put in the purchase price of the property. What is the compensation? What did the seller agree to pay of the total sales price? Then I have one with total price, what the compensation is. If the seller says I'm deducting an amount and the seller agreed to pay this amount, total sales price of the home minus, and then write a line item showing the seller payment. Now, if there's a minus fee, you might even have another line that says buyer is going to pay that amount, whatever that minus fee. So this could be edited to really whatever you want. And I'm just going to tell you, I'm not going to show you for antitrust purposes. I literally put in a dollar amount here. I put in a percent here. I put in a different percent here for the difference. And then, so the total compensation. And then I split it up between buyer and seller. I highlighted this. Then I dumped it into ChatGPT. And ChatGPT, Mina, gave me calculated everything, built it out like a real invoice, and I opened it in Microsoft Word. I'm not showing anybody this, but what I will do is let you go play with this right now. Anyone that's watching, because I got a couple of people that joined us because I sent an e-blast. I'm going to throw this in the Facebook group in the feed so agents can see it, and then you can go play with it. You can go test it. This is in Google Docs. If you are watching this live on YouTube, if you're watching this live on LinkedIn and you don't see the link, you probably are not in my membership. So just take a screenshot and go retype this out. Just go retype it, just go build it, and then you can make this your own. But again, for antitrust purposes, I did not put in compensation. Tell me you like this. Tell me you're like, you know what, Carrie, I'm going to go test this today. And then and the takeaway with this was, again, so I was on a panel and I was the only real estate agent in the room with 50 plus attorneys, maybe 75. And the attorney said that agents are not turning this in when they go under contract as a buyer's agent. It was customary for us to always turn in the commission statement as the listing agent, and we would put what to pay the listing brokerage and what to pay the buyer's agent's brokerage. But now, because we were so used to that happening from the list side, agents that don't work for brokerages that made them do it on the buy side to verify compensation, they're lost. So you must turn in a commission statement. So if you are watching this, go check it out and then tell me how this works. Okay, I see Sharon said we're testing this tonight. Sharon, go test it right now and then come back to the chat and tell us how it worked.
Unless you're driving or you're just listening, we do understand. But you know what? I mean the efficiency of it, because so you're saying that everybody has to have this statement, and instead of having to type it all out, you will already have a template ready to go, and bam. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying, yeah, because you could fix this to whatever you want. You can put your brokerage in. Maybe it is that, the list price, let's say you went under contract at 400,000 and the seller's paying the total compensation that is being paid from your agreement is whatever that percent is. And the seller agreed to pay this amount and the buyer's agreeing to pay this amount. when it'll calculate everything, and then you have an invoice that you can send over right now because the seller is signing the contract right now. You don't have to go take 20 minutes to fill it out because ChatGPT is going to do it in 60 seconds. That part. And if you're like, well, Carrie, what if there's a different amount? What if it's flat fee? You just put in the dollar amount. You just change the prompt to build what you needed to build. Because let me go look at my Word document. I'm not showing it, but it literally has, oh, where'd it go? Where'd my Word? Oh, let me just go back to ChatGPT.
So hold up. So this is, I know you're doing it for this, but if I get a lot of letters, like letters in the mail from real estate agents about wanting me to sell my house. I haven't lived in this house for a year, but I get these letters and they're not nice. Like they're messy. They're
Well, you mean they
they're
don't look
not
as professional and savvy as they should.
right. So that's another use case. Like you could use ChatGPT to create your letter that is professional, and all you got to do is grab it and throw it on the
Now
letterhead.
that I could share. Let me go because what's interesting that you said this, Mina, is this is something that I have taught before. Now, this I could actually share because I just did it when we first came on Zoom. You just didn't know I was building it. So I actually have, well, I almost clicked the wrong one. Let me go here and let me open up another Google Doc. And here's my prompt. So agents have seen me do this with the prompt. So I literally have a
Ooh,
letter, and let me put this in because I just did this for West Chicago today, right? Literally, while you and I are talking, maybe I'll go open, see if I have it open. And I don't even need this anymore because I now simply just copy the compare and contrast and hop over to ChatGPT. And then what I do is I upload the data, the static report that I got from my multiple listing service for West Chicago 2013 and 2024. And I just put in my prompt and I click enter. And this letter, first of all, it's going to format it professionally. Could I ask ChatGPT to make this available in Microsoft Word? Yes. I am actually just using Remind, Mina, for Mark. And Remind is a tool that we use in real estate. And I literally am just copying this just like this. And Remind's format is laid out in a way where I just upload it into their pre-created marketing tool. And I could literally right now in less than 15 minutes mail this out to people in the city I live in that don't have a mortgage. And this will be better than the stuff you're getting in the mail.
because it's not professional at all. And I sometimes open it because you're in the industry. I take a moment and I'm like, I'm just curious. Sometimes, I mean, occasionally I think I've maybe a year or so ago, I'd like to take a picture and send it to you. But I'm like, they really won't. I'm not calling you, even if I wanted to sell my house and you said that. I'm like, this is so noisy and messy. And sometimes people use creative font. And I'm like, use the typical font that it's giving you so that people can read it. What you just showed me is that it makes it efficient. It's not my life's work. I'm not trying to recreate the wheel. It saves me time. I can do other things. Even if it was me just stuffing the envelope, that's I'd rather spend the time getting it in there and putting the stamp on there than doing this. Like, and then formatting it, it's got the right punctuation. Every English teacher that opens it up, because teachers will get this and be like, I'm going to circle this. And we edit your stuff as teachers when you send us stuff.
In your spare time. So here I got a couple of questions, Mina. So
Yeah.
D's like, what I miss. So let me tell you what you missed. I'm going to tell you what I talked about, and then I'll have Mina talk about what she talked about, and then Mina Foster wants to know, can ChatGPT respond to emails on her behalf? So first things first, after talking to attorneys today, there was somewhere between 50 and 75, maybe it was just 50. The room was pretty full. And the one of the questions, because I was on a panel as a real estate agent, was how do we get agents to give us their invoices on the buy side And I was like, how can I solve this in ChatGPT? So I literally came home, and Mina, on the way home, Mina and I are talking, and we were like, what is that one thing we could solve? And here's what it is. So I literally created 3 prompts. You could make more based on compensation. And it was that I created a prompt to create an invoice based on compensation, the total dollar amount, what the compensation is, what the seller is going to pay, if the buyer is going to pay a portion of it, what the address is, my company address, the seller's name, the buyer's name. Of course, you're going to change all that and create this invoice in Microsoft Word. I also created one where only the seller pays the compensation. And then I have one if the seller pays compensation and deducts a minus fee. Some of you have no clue what that is, but in Illinois, when we would list properties, agents would put in a percent minus fee. And that minus fee could have been for marketing to recoup costs, for administration. It could be for tech fees. It could be to store documents. Whatever it was, they took it from the buyer's agent. So this prompt will do that calculation for you and bullet point. I mean, it'll create a whole invoice. Now, I'm just going to tell you, because this could be a thing in your market. You might want to create another prompt that says the seller will pay on the gross or the net. And I know you're probably, and that needs to be negotiated in your seller addendum. Just know, as a reminder, you must have a buyer agency agreement before you show with compensation. And then number 2, when you negotiate compensation, if you're on the list side and the seller's going to pay on the net, you have to respond that way. You cannot go to closing and ask for it later because it wasn't agreed to. So what did you miss? This is what you missed. And I literally threw the prompt for those of you that are watching this live and you're in my membership, because that's where we're streaming this. You can go and test this invoice out. And I want one of you, any of you, to go back up to the chat. Here, I'll retype it in the chat now for those of you that are like, what I miss. And I want D, go test it for me. Go test the top one, put in the sales price, put in what the total compensation was on your buyer agreement, and then what the seller agreed to pay, make it less than on the buyer agreement, and then what the buyer is bringing to closing. Go test it and tell me it worked, because I'm telling you it worked.
And then what the
Then
buyer
Mina, talk to them about what you talked about from an education perspective.
Okay. I don't want to share my screen yet, but I did want to answer one of those questions about, can ChatGPT respond to your emails? Yes and no. It can, like, let's say you wanted it to respond to an email and you wanted it to be more professional. You can take the email, remove names out, throw it into ChatGPT and say, respond to this for me and give it some context. However, you can go to, if you have like a Gmail account or whatever account you have, there are plugins that are ChatGPT large language model systems that are plugins that will respond to your emails, and like Zapier, and there's some other ones. And if you don't believe me, just ask ChatGPT. So the question you asked me, I would have asked you to just tell ChatGPT. So it can't happen. I'm just saying. All right. So there's that. Then, so what I did is I actually, let me share my screen so you can see. And I'm coming from the perspective of, let me go back to the other chat. We want adults, by the time they get to you, when they're 18 years old and they want to be an agent, or they want to work in, the real estate arena or become an entrepreneur, we want them educated on AI. We want them ready to go when they leave high school. We want them to be able to use AI. So what I did is I created, like, so let's say I'm a teacher and I had this second grade teacher that created this market where all of her students created like handcrafted stuff. And then other students would come in and purchase them. And I was like, I wonder what it would look like if they could have receipts. Well, ChatGPT wasn't around. So what I did is I created this prompt, and the prompt that is the actual prompt that I created would be a fill in the blank for the students. And all they would have to do is take this prompt, for example. I'm going to show you what it is because it would be a fill in, just like Carrie gave you. So it would be a
Mhm.
fill in, and you could do this even if you're selling something, you have other things you're selling, but you would take this prompt and have fill in the blank things. And this isn't the actual prompt. The fill in the blank one is this one. Sorry about that. It's you take this and the person, the student, whoever would take this, fill everything in, and then say, okay, what would my receipt be? So I asked ChatGPT to create a receipt. Like, let's say I'm at the booth and I'm like, I have a printer, I'm ready to go, or I'm just going to have them take a picture of it. They throw this in, and ChatGPT would create this receipt or create a document for me, just like Carrie just did. And when it creates the document, it does the calculations for me. It adds all the product, and then it adds the tax. And you're thinking, well, why would I want students to do that? Because that's cheating. There's no math. I also said that you can presume that before the students had their market, they have already practiced their math. They already know how to create a receipt. They already had this direct instruction, and now they have all their receipts in one place. And now they can take all their receipts later and have conversations in the class about what really happened in the market. So this would be show visual, because they're not showing you the visual. So this, I would be able to download this receipt. This is what it would look like for the person buying it. It has everything here. And then at the end of the month, you can give a new prompt and say, add all my receipts up together so I can download it in Google Sheets, or I can put it in Google Sheets or Microsoft Excel. And then all you have to do is put it there, and all the students have to do is learn how to use this to calculate, have conversations in the classroom. We assess them on this at the end of the school year anyway, and it's real world. We're not just giving them something to do. So they're prepared to do the work that you do today. Imagine if you had this when you were a student. Just as a recap.
So I'm only talking about, for my example, I'm only talking about buyer agency compensation. I'm not talking about the seller. I am talking about, you asked the buyer's agent, you sent over an addendum with the offer asking the seller to pay your compensation. The purpose of this invoice, because I'm seeing the chat, some of y'all don't understand that you have to send an invoice to the escrow, title, to the attorney, to the loan officer. You need an invoice, a commission statement for the buy side. You need two. So the listing brokerage has to send one over. You don't have to worry about the buy side. And the buy side has to send one over, because I'm now getting paid, whether my buyer's paying it or that the seller has agreed to pay it. The purpose of my prompt was to just create the invoice real fast so you can send it over after the seller signs your contract. So I see, and then I'm and if your brokerage already has a fill in the blank, you could use that. I'm just trying to show you that even if you have the fill in the blank, you could use the prompt to do the calculations, so you don't have to break out your phone, because ChatGPT is the calculator. That was my point of creating the prompt. But in addition to that, it must be sent over at the beginning of the start of your official file with the fully executed contract, because some of us are sending it over 3 days before closing. And if your buyer's coming to closing with some of the money and the seller's paying it, some agents aren't even using the seller addendum, because I know of a $30,000 oops, wasn't my brokerage, that is happening now, because the buyer's agent said, oh, I don't need an addendum. And the broker was like, are you sure you don't want the addendum? No, I don't need the addendum. Because the agent was basically saying that they were getting paid by their buyer. But now the agent is $30,000 out, because dang. When I tell you, listening to these attorneys, they're like, Carrie, we represent your buyer that you sent over to our office, and that's our client now. I'm like, yeah, when I send an attorney a buyer, the attorney doesn't represent me as the agent.
But
They
hold up.
represent the
So
buyer.
that person didn't get paid because they didn't do the addendum?
Right. Because they don't even know that the laws they don't even know that if you go to the MLS, compensation was removed. The goal of compensation in our multiple listing service was that sellers agreed to pay compensation out of the proceeds, and there was an amount in the MLS. It's gone. So there are some knuckleheads. Let me not say that. There are some agents that don't come to training that don't know. Oh my God, right, D? Like for real, for real.
Oh my,
So
oh my.
in the chat, for those of you that are just joining, you're going to catch the replay because we're pretty much done. Yeah,
But
D
what are
said,
the
nope, they're not good.
takeaways from this? Like, there's a bunch of
My
takeaways, some legality takeaways, but then the user takeaway. What are your takeaways?
my takeaways are is if there's something you are that you're doing that you could leverage ChatGPT to save you time, like I think just by using that prompt I created, it could save you 30 minutes. It'll because you could literally type all of that in and in less than 2 minutes have an invoice created. Now I am all for use what your brokerage provides, but the goal of ChatGPT is to help you work faster. It's not a replacement for you thinking, although it can help you think. It's not a replacement to do it. But one thing I had a talk with an agent because I just finished teaching the ABR, and he was like, Carrie, it would be great if the MLS would notify me when there's a price change, and it does, but it doesn't really notify us like it know like Redfin, Zillow, Realtor.com, Homes.com notifies a buyer because a buyer is just working. They're 24/7 looking at the internet because they're buying. But as an agent, we get frustrated when the buyer knows before us. The goal of what we're trying to show you is leverage AI to help you work smarter and get your time back. That's what I think. So
Yeah.
you'd say your takeaways, and then I think we're good. And for those of you that caught us live, good for you. If you didn't catch us live or you're just joining, you're gonna want to go back and watch the replay.
Okay. So my takeaways are, and I wrote them down. Like, we wanted to get the children ready for the real world, giving them access to AI and leveraging the product, leveraging the productivity of using it so that it makes you more efficient. I think that it's just like Google. People get left behind, and as adults, we need to use it so we get proficient at it. Practice makes proficient, doesn't make perfect, but it will go beyond you, and you will know what is happening if you don't get in front of it, because it is changing like daily. Like,
So
and go ahead.
I'll go ahead. I was gonna say, so that means that we need all of you to open up ChatGPT every day and kind of chat with it and practice with it so you can figure out how you can use it to help you work smarter.
Yeah, and I would say even if it's just to edit a sentence or two in an email, just, hey, make this more fluid. How can I say this better and more friendly? I'm a little upset before I send this email out. How could this sound better? Just even if it's just that.
Or you're struggling in real estate and you're not closing the deals that you want, ChatGPT, give me 5 ways to go from a dual career real estate agent to a full time real estate agent. And here's the market data in my area with how many transactions we're closing and what's the reality. What is my timeline for exiting corporate?
Yep. Oh, yeah, right. So
All right, everyone. Well,
that
thanks for watching. I am Carrie Little, and keep coming back. Keep watching us live on YouTube and on Facebook, and join us over on Instagram.
and I am Dr. Mina Blazy, and I am Mina J. Blazy on everywhere except YouTube, MJ Blazy. Thank you so much.